Joey, thoughts on this? What skills and roles are evolving in UX?
I'd like to touch on a little bit that Abhijit was mentioning and Michael is I've seen where individual contributors are having more responsibilities, more at the strategic level, as well as the business leadership level to understand what are the business outcomes, less about kind of the UI and the visual design, but more about what are we trying to achieve for the customer? How do we bring in more revenue to the company? What sort of services or tools or apps can we start delivering if some companies are more legacy? I've seen this more in the hardware world where they're starting to kind of move towards this trend of offering software as a service to complement the hardware that they offer as well, where traditionally they just, it was more on-prem, solutions for their customers. So that's kind of a trend that I'm seeing, as well as just disciplines being broken up. I think Michael touched on this too, is content strategist, which in my career has always been a gap, and it's always been difficult for us to bring alignment when it comes to the language, the voice and tone that we're trying to portray. And, we reach out to marketing brand as a first step, and then we find out that on the digital products, we need this specific discipline to help support us during reviews, but also to make sure that we're being consistent with our language, whether it's how we're presented in specific flows. It just goes deep into that. And, a lot of us just aren't experts at we may know the essence of what we're trying to portray in the designs or flows or experience, but having that specific discipline and, content strategy and language, which really is different than, I think, Michael, you touched on this too. It's different than some of the content writers that we see in companies because they're more on the technical documentation side.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes we don't want to put that in front of our UI. We want to keep that more on the technical side or try to improve. So those are some of the roles that I see that are transitioning, as well as disciplines just kind of being split up across interaction design versus visual design versus core UX end to end. They kind of cover the full spectrum, as well as research. And right now I'm seeing a big trend with college grads where they're more on the end-to-end spectrum, where they could basically prototype, they could wireframe, they could do research, conduct their own research, which is a good thing to kind of tackle in this field. And adaptability. Yeah. I would say adaptability is important.
Yeah. I can't tell you how many times, Joey, I've been working on a flow, and I said, well, where's the content coming from? Where's the copy coming from? And my boss at the time might have said, oh, just put in whatever you think is best, and it'll get fixed before it gets produced or before it goes into production. Sure enough, didn't. And I think having somebody really own the tone and voice is a huge skill set that plugs really well into our worlds, and being part of that is key as well. Dhwani, thoughts on skills and roles and how they're evolving?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, I'm going to chime in with all these three gentlemen have spoken about already, but yes, I think, as you scale design teams, design operation becomes very, very important. Keeping things on track, deliveries, and let the designers focus on what they do best at designing, right? The other bit I think I'm a very strong advocate of is as you grow and you mature as a designer, there comes a time where you need to start thinking about business design. So that role kind of evolves into what is your business thinking? What are you solving for? What is the problem? And what is the outcome of that, right? As you solve for that, who's going to benefit out of that? So keeping all of those things in mind. So the business design role starts to evolve from that standpoint. And the other, I think, one of the things that is I find is a visual designer, a graphic designer, but nowadays there's a prototyper, which is a very, very powerful role today to kind of, it literally puts the storyline and brings it to life. So as you design, as you research your design, and then you bring things together, where are the micro interactions? Where is that nuance of wow factor, that delight factor, that prototyper can actually bring it to life? So I think these few roles are very, very imperative these days.